documents exposed a series of scandals that began with the Mayor of London and ended with the Prime Minister. We're talking about Keir Starmer, who aggressively defended his record prosecuting grooming gangs when he led the CPS.
I oversaw the first grooming gang prosecution, which was in Rochdale more than a decade ago.
And Sadiq Khan, who went viral for acting like he didn't even know what a rape gang was.
Can she be clear what she means by that? I'm not clear what she means.
You're not listening. It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
Both of these powerful men made bold public denials. Both thought that their past was safe. They were wrong. There was already proof that their stances were totally flawed. This is the inside story of how we found out.
Rolling, and if she gives a clap.
The grooming gang story had quieted down when the office phone rang. A man claimed he had a former police source with evidence of London grooming gangs. London? No one had mentioned them being in my city before. I dug deeper and found the official line. Mayor Sadiq Khan was actively denying their existence here. His specific response? No reports and no indication of grooming gangs in the capital.
And I choose my words carefully for the reason she'll understand. There's no reported cases, but also no indication of the grooming gangs that she's concerned about in London.
I called my friend, crime reporter Callum Cudderford. Callum smelled the same denial and is already laying the groundwork, filing information requests across every London borough. The mayor wasn't alone. The head of the Metropolitan Police had made the same claim.
Are we very sure that we don't have a significant problem around child sexual exploitation gangs?
I can't guarantee.
I'm not asking for a guarantee.
No, I know you're not. I can't guarantee there's something that out there that we haven't seen.
Right.
Instinct told us this was untrue, but instinct isn't evidence. So Cal and I teamed up. The first concrete proof that Khan's line was false came from the police whistleblower John Wedger. Wedger was a controversial figure, but he showed me his police logbooks from the early 2000s detailing his detective work investigating organised abuse in London.
I found 3 kids in 3 minutes. I found 52 kids in 3 days. The cover-ups of the grooming gangs in these provincial towns does go on because I've experienced it, and it's police corruption. What I did was proactive. I didn't wait for child prostitutes to come knocking on my door saying, please help me, although that did happen. And when it did, my superiors told me, ignore them, they're liars.
While verifying his claims, I had the realisation. The proof wasn't hidden. It was in the public record. Articles about child prostitution rings operated by gangs were sitting right there, definitively proving the mayor wrong. When we approached Khan's office, they called it false, malicious and politically motivated, a total denial. That suspicion only made us dig deeper. We published the first piece. We kept digging. Callum and I built a master spreadsheet detailing every example of grooming gangs in London that had been hiding in plain sight. These included obvious cases, like the group linked to serial killer Levi Belfield, which was discussed on the front page of the Sunday Times in 2018. It quickly became clear that the denials were impossible to maintain. Beyond press mentions, we found mountains of council documents and police inspection reports, official bodies the mayor oversees, that referenced the gangs. And then we found the most explosive evidence that contradicted Khan's denials. Reports that he'd read. From the outset of Sadiq Khan's term, there were serious concerns about the Metropolitan Police's handling of child abuse investigations. The independent watchdog regularly inspected the Met, producing reports with case studies that sounded suspiciously like grooming gangs. Crucially, we found a paper trail. Every time the report was published, Khan would respond to it publicly. This seemed to show that he had read and responded to reports about suspected grooming gangs, but we needed confirmation. So we took our case studies to multiple experts. Maggie Oliver was one of them. She confirmed that our description was correct. A 13-year-old girl was alone and unsafe in a house with 3 men.
I don't need a report to know that that's wrong.
A 15-year-old girl coerced to go to a hotel.
100% for me. For me, that is unambiguous.
Given drugs and alcohol, made to carry out sexual acts on men.
That is the pattern that I have seen in grooming gangs. I want to see somebody in a high place held criminally responsible.
After we published, other titles rushed to cover similar stories, reporting on the publicly available sources that we had found, like the reports into children's deaths. Eventually, the pressure forced public acknowledgement. Khan, along with the Met Police, were forced to acknowledge that 9,000 potential cases were being reviewed by the Home Office. It was massive vindication, but Khan refused to back down or apologise. Instead, he claimed to have been on the side of the victims the whole time.
Safety of girls and women is an incredibly important issue, and my thoughts are always with the victims and seeing what we can to improve the service that women generally receive.
While reviewing the reports, Callum and I noticed something strange. In one case, a child reported horrific abuse by a grooming gang, but police gave one of the suspects a warning letter known as a child abduction warning notice. This disturbing practice was widespread. Historical stats showed that the Met Police were handing out hundreds of these per year, while only charging a fraction of the number of people with crimes. Nationally, the practice was even more disturbing. Forces across Britain were using these warning letters instead of pursuing prosecutions, with usage spiking after the grooming gang scandals in Rochdale and Rotherham. These letters were dangerous. They had no legal status if breached. They had no evidence showing that they had any impact. They had failed to protect a child in one example that ended with a death. When Maggie Oliver described these letters as a paedophile ASBO and said she had personal experience of them being used to shut down an investigation, we knew we had to find out who was behind them. And then I found this. This 2011 report, released just as the Rochdale scandal was breaking, details how the Crown Prosecution Service was working with police to draft a standardised format for the Paedo ASBO. On the top of the document was a very significant name: Keir Starmer. Just like Khan, the Prime Minister fought us when we approached number 10 for comment. They claimed it was a mischaracterisation, arguing that Paedo ASBOs existed before Starmer's report discussed drafting them. But then Callum found this. It was a literal document issued by the CPS in 2012 with the template Paedo ASBO letter for police forces to use. Our first story was not a mischaracterisation at all, but there was more. While researching the Paedo ASBO story, I pulled all of Starmer's public statements about grooming gangs. The Prime Minister was claiming to have played a personal role in the first prosecution in Rochdale.
And when that file was brought to my attention, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that one of the defendants had not been prosecuted previously. Far from covering up, I asked for that file so that I could have a look at it. On the back of that, I then changed the entire approach to prosecutions, which was then lauded by the government. We were doing the right thing and brought those prosecutions. So my record was going after where I thought something had gone wrong and putting it right.
Yet Maggie Oliver had told me the actions of the CPS on that job were horrendous. In fact, there was hard evidence that their decisions had caused serious harm to the grooming gang victims. An independent team had slammed those same decisions a year before Starmer stood up in the Commons to boast about his familiarity with the Rochdale file. Most damningly, they described the decision by Starmer's CPS to twist a vulnerable victim's testimony, portraying her as a paedophile for tactical reasons as deplorable further abuse. Number 10's response was muted. They didn't fight the evidence. They simply reiterated that Starmer was in charge when the Rochdale prosecution went down. But we had blown apart the Prime Minister's beloved story that he was a tough prosecutor who led the way. You've been watching a special edition of the Express report that takes you inside the investigation. Remember to subscribe and ring the bell at the bottom of the screen so you never miss a video. We're always looking for new topics to investigate, so drop your ideas in the comments below.
Everybody, I've come here today to talk about the gravest injustices of British history. Throughout the United Kingdom since as early as the 1950s. Children have been groomed, tortured, raped, trafficked, impregnated, criminalised and murdered. Families have been destroyed and ripped apart by gangs of men and women. Children were raped by dogs. There was poured petrol on, forced to dig their own graves. Scriptures of the Quran were read whilst gangs of men raped them. They called for Lucifer while they placed children in microwaves, ovens and freezers. Now that is only one part of the story. Professionals that were paid to protect did absolutely nothing. They didn't just do nothing, they were involved. Police officers held cock nights where groups of police officers raped children and then handed them back to the gangs of men, while social services turned a blind eye. Politicians were also involved, and children were sacrificed for votes. Jahangir Akhtar was a Labour politician. He made a no prosecution deal with rapist Arshad Hussain and PC Hassan Ali. They was making deals with rapists. And let's not forget how the minister, Jess, resigned this week, and very rightly so. They said no to a national inquiry, and of course they did. This was happening under a Labour government and a Tory government. The Tories don't get off lightly either. Now people, the government are bringing in third worlders. And people have asked me, Sammy, why aren't you talking about the white offenders? I do, but guess what? We've got enough white offenders. We don't want no more. Labour politicians have threatened and tried to sue me. They've tried having me arrested for telling you all about what's been going in our country. Raja Meyer is currently trying to sue me. But let me make this very clear to Keir Starmer, to Jahangir Akhtar, to all the politicians and the police officers that are trying to stop people like me from exposing this. You will not stop us. MP Rupert Lowe has started his inquiry. Our report will be published in a couple of months, and we are going straight for the government. We're going to name them, we're going to shame them, and we're going to prosecute them. And they're not going to stop us. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be able to stand here today, and I'm fortunate enough to say that I sent my rapist to prison for 35 years. There are thousands of children in this country that have had no justice, no platform, and no voice. I just want to mention, before we go into a minute's silence, Lucy Lowe, Laura Wilson, and Jodie Sheeran. They're not here today. So when we go into that moment of silence, please think of them and keep them close to your hearts. And I just want to acknowledge every single victim in this country, not just victims to the gangs, but to the victims that were abused by the church and the priests, the children in care homes, by family members, by online. All the victims, I want you to know that this wasn't your fault. You're not to blame, and the state will be held to account. Is that right? Let's start the 1 minute silence. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
You're listening to Freedom Talk Radio with your host Andy Peacher, live from the UK. Email us freedomtalkradio2013@gmail.com or visit us at freedomtalkradioonline.com.